It's a place where miracles happen.
The white flash from Juliet detonating the bomb transitions to Jack as he's flying somewhere, and for a moment he almost seems lost in thought. So it would appear that Juliet's bomb worked. Destroying the Swan station has reset everything back to normal, but Jack senses that something is off, and this is confirmed as we zoom down to the ocean floor and we see that his plane is flying over the sunken remains of the island. The episode continues with everyone recovering from the explosion, finding themselves transported back in time to the point after Desmond exploded the hatch. Sawyer immediately lays into Jack for being wrong about the bomb stopping this place from being built.
You said we could stop it from ever being built! Then our plane would never crash on this island!
Stop it!
It seems that Juliet died for nothing, but she didn't die for nothing. In that particular timeline, she was successful. Remember what I said about separate timelines, and how each version of these people has one unified soul, which is anchored to the energy source of this island. When we're viewing these alternate timelines, we're seeing what the show refers to as a flash sideways. While everyone's arguing, Kate hears a faint call for help coming from the wreckage, and they dig like crazy, realising it's Juliet. And she reveals that she manually detonated the bomb, hoping it would save Sawyer from ever being on the island. And this is the moment when Juliet dies. In the forest, Hugo calls out for someone to help Sayid, as he's basically dead at this point. But instead of Dr. Jack showing up, he gets Jacob, who he can see now because he's dead. He says that Hugo can save Sayid by taking him to the temple. No, not that temple, the other one. And also he needs to give them Charlie's guitar case. Outside of Jacob's temple, Ben is shown that John is here lying dead on the ground. So whoever this is isn't John, and so they storm the temple to find out who it really is. And as they find out, he's the smoke monster. The episode ends with everyone in the other timeline landing safely in Los Angeles, and everyone seems quite content. On the slightly less happy side, we see Charlie being arrested for smuggling drugs, and Kate's being escorted by the marshal to face trial for murder.
I've missed you so much.
To get Sayid to the other temple, they have to go through the Smoke Monster's temple, but they get separated, and then Jack is knocked out by some new guy. On the other side, there's a whole bunch of new people who are threatened by the presence of Jack and the gang. Flight attendant Cindy, who is now part of this temple group, explains who these intruders are, and so the Japanese guy orders their execution. But Hugo says, hold up, I got something for you. Just take a peek in this guitar case. The Japanese guy breaks open whatever this is and takes out a note from Jacob, which says they need to save Sayid's life by any means necessary. These temple guys took refuge here a long time ago and have sworn their lives to protect the island, taking guidance and orders from Jacob, which is kind of like Richard's group, but these guys are more secluded and mysterious. And the show hasn't just made these people up. We saw them way back in that episode where Echo and Jin were hiding in the bush and saw these people walking by with the two kids that went missing. Remember when they got kidnapped all that time ago? Well, they've been here at the temple the whole time. Inside the temple, they have a magical jacuzzi that can bring people back to life. But it seems that Sayid is too far gone, as the magic is ineffective.
Your friend is dead.
They inquire with Hugo as to how he was able to speak with Jacob, and he says, well, that's because he's dead.
What?
This news puts the whole temple on high alert, as without Jacob, they're no longer protected, and the darkness of the island, aka the Smoke Monster, could enter their temple at any time. In a conversation with Ben, we find out that the Smoke Monster feels trapped on the island.
I want the one thing that John Locke didn't. I want to go home.
He takes complete command of this group, who are scared out of their minds as to who this is that's taken on John's image, and only Richard is old enough to recognise who's beneath the disguise.
It's good to see you out of those chains.
You? Me?
As a shocking reveal at the end, in the middle of a scuffle, Sayid comes back to life.
What happened?
For the alternative timeline stuff, we see Jack giving John a business card saying that he would give him a consultation on his back. And we also see Kate getting away from the marshal, and Sawyer helps her get past security.
Sorry. Excuse me. Ladies first.
Thanks, sir.
Take care.
Don't mistake coincidence for fate.
Kate is caught sneaking out of the airport, so she hops in a cab and demands him to step on it, even though a heavily pregnant Claire is already in this cab, so she drops her off somewhere safe before continuing with her escape. A local mechanic agrees to help her with her cuffs. Oh look, it's Joe from The Walking Dead.
Your problem is you need a punch press, and you're not going to be able to use one of those and keep that gun pointed at me.
She makes up for scaring Claire by giving her a ride to the adoption family and such. And yeah, it's a nice side story, but who actually cares about this, honestly? Moving on. The temple people are sus of Sayid coming back to life, with the Japanese leader guy Dogen believing that an evil force has taken Sayid as host, and so Dogen wants to give him this pill that will test if he has evil within. They torture him for a while to see if he's human, and even though he screamed in pain the entire time, they say he failed this test.
Test to be sure of what? Don't worry. You passed. I just lied to him, didn't I?
Yes.
Jack gets annoyed with them for being so cryptic about these tests, and so he swallows the pill himself, forcing Dogen to knock it out of him and admit that it's poison. Mac from Always Sunny catches Jin wandering around near the temple, but then Mac is shot by a dishevelled looking Claire.
Claire?
This is destiny. This is my destiny.
In John's alternate life, he's arranging his wedding with Helen, but not all is going well, as he gets fired from his job for taking unauthorised leave. Alternate timeline Hugo sees him down in the dumps, so he offers him a new job, and he's interviewed by alternate timeline Rose. I'm just going to call the alternate timeline versions other brackets enter name from here on. Other John resorts to his usual don't tell me what I can't do shtick, saying that she doesn't know what it's like to face reality.
I have cancer.
I'm sorry.
When the doctors first told me, I had a hard time accepting it. But eventually, I got past the denial part, and I got back to living whatever life I've got left.
This is an important moment for John's soul, seeing how his biggest challenge in life is being at peace with his situation, and seeing that he's enough as is, and doesn't have to keep proving himself, a mentality he's built experiencing so much rejection. He opens up to Helen in a truly honest way, and as a result, they become more connected. She says that her love is unconditional, so if he doesn't want to take Jack's offer of fixing his spine, then neither does she. He then takes a job as a substitute teacher, and other Ben is also a teacher here. Listen to this ridiculous use of music, like we're supposed to be surprised who this is when he turns around.
Actually, I was just hoping for some Earl Grey.
Tea? Now there's a gentleman's drink. I don't believe we've met.
Smoke Monster Locke finds Sawyer drinking away his misery and promises to give him purpose again by revealing why he's on this island. All he needs to do is follow him down to this cave. Written on the ceiling of this cave are all the names of the people that were on the plane. The first plane, I mean. This is a list that Jacob created a long time ago while he was selecting his candidates for the person who's going to look after the island when he's no longer here. John proposes the idea that instead of Sawyer sticking around and potentially taking on such a heavy job, why doesn't he join him in going home?
So what do you say, James? Are you ready to go home?
Hell yes.
And hope is a very dangerous thing to lose.
Other Jack has a kid called David, who you might recognise as Clay from 13 Reasons Why. I don't, as I've never seen the show before. He struggles to bond with David, as he's too busy to have a solid relationship with him. He unexpectedly turns up to David's piano show, and David realises that his dad does care about him.
I didn't tell you I was coming here because I didn't want you to see me fail.
I will always love you. No matter what you do, in my eyes, you can never fail.
This timeline is important for Jack's soul, as it repairs his heartbreak from not having a close relationship with his dad. Jack tells Sayid that the temple people know one other person who's been afflicted by the darkness, and that person is Claire. She's certainly gone a bit loopy. She's made a pretend Aaron doll and keeps other weird stuff in her tent. She captured one of the temple guys, as she's convinced they took Aaron. And as she's about to axe the guy in the tummy, Jin reveals that Kate took Aaron, and he's at home, safe with family. She axes the guy anyway, cause you know, she crazy. And to further solidify our suspicion that she's turned to the dark side, not John Locke turns out to be the friend that she was talking about.
That's not John. This is my friend.
This episode is called Lighthouse because Jacob uses a mysterious lighthouse to watch the candidates from afar. He convinces Hugo to bring Jack here so that he can finally see that being on the island is no mistake. It was all part of Jacob's plan.
He's been watching us. The whole time, all of us, he's been watching us.
This kinda drives him nuts, feeling more confused than ever before. So he's gonna need to sit by himself for a while and let this all sink in.
Jack is here because he has to do something. Can't be told what that is. He's got to find it himself. Sometimes you can just hop in the back of someone's cab and tell them what they're supposed to do. Other times, you have to let them look out at the ocean for a while.
We've done our best to live on this island. Some of us have come to accept we may never leave it.
Other Saeed's story is mid and not that interesting, which is a shame because I really like Saeed. It gets kind of interesting when his brother's loan shark ends up being Martin Keamy.
Hey, you want some eggs? I can make whatever you want, fried, scrambled. You forgot that poacher. What's the poacher?
Saeed ends up killing Keamy for putting his brother in hospital. He then hears a banging coming from the pantry, and it turns out to be Jin, which again, other Jin's storyline isn't that interesting to delve into. Claire finds her way into the temple, looking to negotiate with Dogen on John's behalf, but he's like, nah, sees her and stuff. Dogen wants Saeed to help him kill John to prove that the darkness hasn't overtaken. He complies with the task, but the dagger is ineffective.
Now why'd you go and do that?
Instead of ripping him to pieces, John convinces him to join the dark side by promising that he will see Nadia again. She got hit by a car, by the way. Saeed delivers a message that everyone in this temple is free to leave, but if they choose to stay, they will die. You got till sundown to make your choice. Saeed then kills Dogen, as he's not Team John. He was kind of a douche anyway, so no rip for Dogen. It's now sundown, so it's time for the John monster to lay waste to all of these fools who stuck around. It's a pretty satisfying scene, and to end the episode, John leads his new followers to wherever he wants.
What was it that was so wrong with me? What about me?
It's important to note that Ben has now split from John's party, and he's leading the opposers to the beach, because as he puts it, no one has any better ideas about how to stay alive.
What beach?
Where we buried Locke, where they lived. At least we'll have the water at our backs and it's familiar territory.
This flash sideways is easily my favourite. Ben is a highly respected teacher among other teachers and his students, one of those students being Alex, but in this timeline she's not his daughter, although she ends up wishing that she was, because this Ben is such a nice guy who genuinely cares about her education and well-being.
AP test is Friday. I was kind of counting on the tutoring.
All right, how about this? Tomorrow morning, 7 a.m. in the library, and you bring the coffee.
Thanks. God, you're the best, Dr. Linus.
My pleasure, Alex.
Okay.
Threatening to destroy this bond is a scandal going on with the school's principal, where Ben could blow the whistle and get him fired, but if he does, the principal threatens to ruin Alex's chances of getting into a good college. The sweetener in blowing the whistle would be that Ben gets to take his job, but ultimately he decides that Alex's life is way more important to him. Just a really sweet story that Ben truly deserves in at least one timeline, and his selflessness here redeems his soul for all of the things that happened in the other timeline.
All the help you've given. You're the closest thing to a father she's ever had.
Back on the island, the story revolves around Ilana, acting as if she's now in charge, and emotionally, I'm not sold on this idea. Nothing against her character, she's just been introduced too late into the game for me to really care. By the way, I know I'm skipping more scenes than usual for this final season, but it's only because I feel that many of you are really wanting this thing to wrap up. You just want to understand the meaning behind all this. I have been paying attention to the comments and dwindling views as the seasons have gone on, so for this final season, I am fixating more on the important storylines and the overall message to take away at the end. There's another heartfelt reunion with the people on the beach, which would have meant more for me if Jin was there to finally reunite with Sun. The ending is quite eerie, as we see a submarine spying on them by orders of Charles Widmore.
Should we stop? No. Proceed as planned.
Yes, sir, Mr. Whitmore.
Well, guess what? Now, I want some friggin' answers!
In this ironic flash sideways, Sawyer's working with the police rather than being against them, and Miles is a cop too. Even though on this timeline Sawyer's on the straight and narrow, his parents were still murdered, and he's still emotionally burdened by seeking revenge, and he's also struggling with commitment to women.
Look, I don't know if you're just lonely or guilty or completely mad, but you know what, I don't care. You blew it.
This side of his story ends with him arresting other Kate.
Son of a bitch.
John sends Sawyer to the other island to do some recon, finding out what their plans are to stop John from leaving the island. He agrees to do it, and ends up being brought to Charles Widmore, which is what he was hoping for, of course. He makes a deal with Widmore. If he lets all his friends live and give them safe passage off the island, he'll give up John Locke. But as we find out, this apparent double cross on John was actually a double cross on Widmore.
I told them I'd tell you the coast was clear and bring you back with me. Walk you right into their trap. Which means they'll be caught with their pants down when we change our plan of attack.
You created life where life wasn't supposed to be.
Ab Eterno is Latin for from the beginning or from eternity, appropriately titled, as we're seeing Richard's story from a long time ago, before he could even speak English. His wife is dying of dramatitis, and Richard begs the town doctor for help. When he's rejected, he accidentally kills the doctor, and he rushes home with the medication, but unfortunately it's too late. Nesta Campbell's acting is superb here, and makes this episode a highlight of the season. When he's arrested and awaits execution, a priest comes along for his confession, and the priest is played by Juan Carlos Cantu, who famously played Nacho's dad in Better Call Saul. As he's led to his execution, some guy comes along and says, "I'll buy him. As he speaks a little English, he'll be an ideal slave." Richard gets chained up on the Black Rock, and we all know how that journey ends. Richard survives the crash, and when the smoke monster comes to inspect the wreck, he decides to leave Richard alive. Richard then spends a long time trying desperately to get free from his shackles. Eventually, the man in black turns up, offering him some much needed water. And by now, we figure out that the smoke monster is the man in black. He tries convincing Richard that Jacob is the devil and needs to be slain.
The devil has your wife, and you are going to have to kill him if you ever want to get her back.
Jacob beats him in a fight, and struggles to convince Richard that this isn't purgatory or hell, and also he's not dead.
I am in hell. I know that I am in hell.
You really think you're dead?
Where else would I be?
You think you're dead? Why should I stop?
Because I want to live.
Jacob uses a bottle of wine to demonstrate how the island acts as a cork that keeps the evil from escaping and spreading across the world. And he recruits Richard to be the person who represents Jacob and gives his messages to the people who he brings to the island. In exchange for his services, he gives Richard the gift of eternal life.
Can you absolve me of my sins so I don't go to hell?
I can't do that either.
I never want to die. I want to live forever.
That I can do.
The episode ends with a conversation between the man in black and Jacob, where Jacob explains that he'll never let him off the island, so long as he's alive to prevent it.
I'll see you around.
Sooner than you think.
a second. We're not going to Guam, are we?
While John's away from camp, many of his followers get knocked out by tranq darts, and Jin gets captured and questioned by Widmore's people, wanting to know the locations of the energy pockets on the island and stuff. God, this season's so long. This final season doesn't need to be 17 episodes long, and for this episode, not that much important happens, so we're gonna skip through it. Richard wants to stop John leaving the island, and he suggests that they blow up the plane, an idea which isn't going to sit well with the others who want to leave. The episode ends with Sayid seeing Desmond being brought in by the submarine. Without context, Sayid bobbing around in the water looks pretty funny, and to keep it funny, I'm not going to give you that context.
Well, good luck, brother. See you in another life, yeah?
Desmond wakes up to the news that he's been brought back to the island, and yeah, no surprise, he doesn't take it too well.
I can't imagine how you must be feeling, but if you'll give me a chance to explain.
Widmore brought him back because he's the only person he knows to have survived an electromagnetic event as big as the Swan incident. They've set up another electromagnet, and the lead scientist is the awkward nerd from Death Race.
Jensen Garner Ames moved to the States at 24 years old, named after a car, the Jensen Interceptor.
Did you know that actors sometimes appear in other media? Widmore says that after the experiment is done, Desmond will need to make a sacrifice. Otherwise, all of this would have been for nothing. When he regains consciousness, he's in the other timeline, completely unaware of anything happening to the core Desmond. Other Desmond leads a successful life, working as Widmore's right-hand man. His new task is to get Driveshaft to perform at Eloise's charity event. More specifically, he needs to keep Charlie out of trouble so he can perform with the band.
Mr. Pace, I'm Desmond Hume. Charles Widmore sent me.
Charlie heads straight for a bar, as he's lost all care for his well-being after a near-death experience on the plane. Just before Jack saved his life, he was in a euphoric state, and he saw a vision of Claire appearing to him like a guardian angel, and he felt truly happy for the first time in his life. He wishes for Desmond to experience this same window into another reality, and it starts by unlocking a core memory. While being scanned at the hospital, he gets his core memories of Penny back, and he freaks out looking for Charlie. But Charlie says, "Stop worrying about me and go look for your soulmate." After delivering the news that Driveshaft aren't going to be at the event, he overhears the name Penny and tries snooping around to find out who she is. But Eloise says, "Hey, get out of here." But then Daniel says, "Wait, you had visions of another life? Well, so did I. In this world, I'm a musician, yet last night I had a dream about these equations that only a physicist would know."
What if this wasn't supposed to be our life? What if we had some other life? For some reason, we changed things.
Daniel tells him where to find Penny, and after they meet, we get this simple but effective transition back to the island. This traversal across timelines gives core Desmond the bigger picture, so he's now willing to help Widmore. But then Sayid captures him.
Desmond, I don't have time to explain, but these people are extremely dangerous. We need to go now.
Aye, of course.
Back in the other timeline, Penny gets the feeling they know each other, so she agrees to go on a date with him.
There's a coffee shop on the corner of Sweetser and Melrose. I'll meet you there in an hour.
Absolutely.
Everyone gets a new life on this island.
Other Hugo's being celebrated as a philanthropist, and his life looks amazing, but his mum reminds him that he's missing a lady in his life, and so she set him up on a date. But while waiting for her to turn up, other Libby wanders across from the restaurant, certain of their connection. But Hugo isn't so sure, seeing her being ushered into the type of bus that transports people back to a psych ward. Back on the island, he sees the ghost of Michael, warning him not to let his friends blow up the plane.
People are gonna die. A lot of people, it's gonna be your fault. What? Because people are listening to you now, Hurley.
He passes the warning to Alana, but she's determined to see the plan through. Well, that is until... Oh no, she's dead. Well, anyway. Hugo then blows up the rest of the dynamite on the Black Rock to stop any further attempts at the plane. When he sees Michael again, he confirms that the whispers that people can hear in the jungle are dead people whose souls are stuck on the island. Other Desmond has made it his mission to convince the other oceanic passengers that an alternate life exists, and all they have to do to realise this is make a connection with the right person. Hugo goes on a date with Libby, and she puts his doubts to bed with a kiss that gives him these visions.
I think I'm remembering stuff.
You are? You mean I'm not crazy?
No, I don't think you are.
Locke sees Desmond helping Widmore as a threat to his mission, so he pushes him down a well. To end the episode, we see other Desmond running over an already wheelchair-bound Locke.
Oh my God. Don't move. We're gonna get you to the hospital. Mr. Locke?
I did not ask for the life that I was given, but it was given nonetheless.
The Man in Black / Smoke Monster / John Locke reveals that he previously took on Christian's image to help Jack find water way back in season 1. He tells Jack this because he wants him to believe that he cares about his mission in getting back home, as getting off the island is the right thing to do. Widmore sends one of his people over to warn John that he needs to return what he stole, and if he doesn't... But he's not interested in this deal, and gets everyone back to work on their plans to sail over to the other island. Sawyer conspires with Jack to turn against Locke and get them far away, but Claire overheard their plans and holds them at gunpoint. Kate says, "Come with us, Claire. I'll get you back to Aaron."
I came back to get you so you could be with him again. It's the only reason I came back to the island, Claire.
Jack suddenly remembers that being off the island felt terrible, so Sawyer tells him to jump off if he's no longer on their team. When they arrive on the other island, we finally see Jin and Sun reunited.
Jin? Sun!
Even though Sawyer stuck to his end of the deal, Glasses Woman gets radio communication that Widmore's not going to do the same. With their coordinates locked on Jack, they fire the first attack on their gang.
Get down!
You know, Jack. You know that you're here for a reason.
John recovers from being run over, thanks to Jack, who just so happened to be the surgeon on call. He then informs John that he took a look at his spine and believes that he is a candidate for a procedure that will get him walking again. But John's like, nah, I like being in a wheelchair.
Now there's minimal risk and the benefit
I said no, Doctor.
Sawyer's gang get chucked into the bear cages. I wonder if the fish biscuit machine still works. Before long, John arrives on this island too, and he lays waste to a good chunk of Widmore's crew. Jack comes back to free them from the cage, but this doesn't mean he's on their team again, as he's still against the idea of leaving. They find Sayid, and he says, "Come with me, John's waiting." But why would they listen to him? Aren't they trying to get away from John? Whatever, let's move on. They get to the plane, but oh no, Widmore rigged the plane with C4, and John can't be sure that Widmore doesn't have a backup plan to destroy the plane, so they're going to use the submarine to get off the island. As they board the sub, Jack pushes Locke off the jetty to stop him getting on, but what he doesn't know is that John switched his backpack so that Jack takes a bomb on board.
Dude, where'd that come from?
Locke, we did exactly what he wanted.
The Man in Black's plan was to have everyone kill each other, as they're all candidates to replace Jacob. With no Jacob and no replacement here, there would be nothing to stop him leaving the island. Sayid sacrifices himself to prevent everyone from blowing up. So I guess the darkness within him hadn't completely taken over. But regardless of his sacrifice, the sub is still sinking, so they need to get out of here. Jin stays behind to rescue Sun, but it's no good. And we're about to watch the moment where Jin and Sun die.
Please go!
I won't leave you.
I love you, son.
I love you.
RIP for two of the best characters, and absolutely the best couple on this show. When Jack reaches the shore, the emotional turmoil of losing more friends, and with a feeling of being completely lost on what to do, he breaks down.
It could be coming from anywhere.
Or any time.
A pregnant woman washes up on the island, and another woman finds her at the creek and offers to help her, which is great timing as she's about to pop out her first child. She calls him Jacob, but then much to her surprise, another little rugrat pops out. I'll name this one the Man in Black. The other woman then bashes her skull in, for reasons that aren't too clear, and she takes on the role as new mummy. MIB develops an interest for what's across the sea, as all they know is this island, and he's starting to distrust some of the things that Mummy says, especially when they discover that there's other people on this island. She tells them that those people are dangerous, and they're not like MIB or Jacob, who unlike these scruffy villagers have a very important purpose, which is to protect the island's energy source.
It's beautiful.
Yes, it is. And that's why they want it. Because a little bit of this very same light is inside of every man. But they always want more.
MIB's birth mother comes to him in a vision, making him realise that new mummy is full of doo-doo.
She's not your mother. I am.
Jacob doesn't believe him, and the two end up in a scrap. MIB then lays out his feelings.
There is another place across the sea. It's where I'm from. And I'm gonna go there. I'm gonna go home.
Fast forward many years, and we see that Jacob and his new people have found a way to siphon the energy source, believing they can use its powers to travel the world. And well, we know he's right. Mummy tries to kill him to protect the energy source from being exploited, but he somehow wakes up alive outside the well, and then he kills her in revenge.
What did you do?
What did you do?
Jacob chokes out MIB and sends him down the river into the light, seeing as how he wanted this light so bad. But the light source rejects him and turns him into the smoke monster.
But if we can't live together, we're gonna die alone.
Ben leads Richard and Miles to go find some C4 that he stashed away in his old Dharma house. But following closely behind them is Widmore.
What are you doing here?
Put the gun down, Benjamin.
If you don't answer me, I swear...
You shoot me, and your last chance of survival will be gone.
He says that he and Ben are on the same side now. Jacob met with him off camera and told him the truth about this island. They get word that John has arrived too, so everyone panics and makes a run for it. But not Richard and Ben, they're wearing their brave boy pants. He unexpectedly launches Richard across the village, and I'll be honest, it gave me a slight jump scare. He takes a more casual approach with Ben, and tells him that he'll inherit the island if he gives up Widmore, and so he does just that.
What a pleasant surprise. How nice to be able to talk without those fences between us.
John gets rid of the unnecessary characters in the room so they can get down to business.
Why would you do that? You told her not to talk to me. That made her pointless.
Widmore goes to whisper the reason why he's on this island, in exchange for John not killing Penny. But then Ben kills Widmore.
He doesn't get to save his daughter.
Jacob appears before Hugo and shows him the fire where his ashes are, and says that when this fire goes out, they'll never see each other again.
You should get your friends. We're very close to the end, Hugo.
Hear that, everyone? You've made it this far, so don't you dare turn off the video. And maybe if you like me, like I like you, you'll give me a little like down below. Jacob reveals himself to the gang and explains the reason for them being on the island is because he needs to be replaced now, and all of these survivors were troubled souls who had lost their path in life.
I chose you because you were like me. You were all alone. You were all looking for something that you couldn't find out there.
Jack steps up as the hero of the group and says, "I'll do it. I'll protect the island." To make this official, Jack has to drink some water from the stream that leads into the energy source, after Jacob gives it a blessing.
Now you're like me.
Realising that he's running out of options, John says that he's going to use Desmond to do something that he was never able to do.
I'm gonna destroy the island.
It turns out that other Desmond didn't hit John to make him go sleep. He wanted him to get woke to the real world.
The man told me that he wasn't trying to hurt you. He told me that he was trying to get you to let go. And for some reason, I believed him.
Nobody does it alone, Jack. You needed all of them, and they needed you.
Well, it all comes down to this. We all know this series is far from perfect. It takes a lot of patience to make it to the finale. But even when you do, the emotional payoff is immense. Seeing everyone's stories connect, and seeing Desmond help all these people to come to the realisation that their existence is deeper than the material. It's such an uplifting thing to believe in, even if you're not a religious person. Imagine all the challenges that you faced in life, all the anxiety and worry and feelings of loss. All of that could be eliminated by the feeling that everything is going to be okay. You'll be at one with the energy of this world. I'm not a religious person, but I do believe in the message of all of this. Not because I believe in some magical light source, but I do believe that we're all connected, and I'll delve into that feeling at the end. I'm not going to cover all of the moments when they realise they're all connected. It would feel repetitive, and more importantly, it would take away from the experience of watching it yourself. Some of these stories will be more meaningful than others, depending on your feelings on each character. For me, the biggest moment was seeing John and Jack getting their visions of their core life and what they've been through together on a spiritual level. And in an ironic twist, Jack is now the man of faith, knowing that he can fix John. He just needs John to believe in him.
I can't help you, John. I wish you believed me.
Back on the island, other Jack and John come face to face. Neither of these two are able to kill each other, with Jack revealing that he volunteered to take Jacob's job. Jack believes that the only thing that will happen if John successfully destroys the light is that he will become mortal, allowing Jack to kill him. The only person able to withstand the light's energy is Desmond, so they get him to go down there. Desmond is willing to go along with this, believing that he'll be transported back to Penny, somehow. But when he takes the cork out, oh okay, it's literally a cork. I thought that was just a metaphor. The river runs dry, and the island starts falling apart. Jack was right about John becoming mortal, but so too has he. He tracks John down to the edge of the island, and they fight until the bitter end. John knifes him in the belly, and Kate shoots the man in black dead.
I saved you a bullet!
What a heroic moment for Kate. Jack hands over the torch to Hugo as the new protector of the island. He then puts all of his remaining energy into putting the cork back in, and he cries in victory, seeing the waters and light return. It's time for the most important reunion of this show. Everyone who has reconnected with their inner light and ready to move on finds their way to the lamppost church. Christian and Jack finally put their issues to rest, and they embrace to close their story.
I love you too, son.
Are you real? I sure hope so. Yeah, I'm real. You're real. Everything that's ever happened to you is real.
The scene of everyone hugging and being at peace, it never fails to make me tear up. All of these people's stories have given us something to relate to, and it really feels like, for a brief moment in time, that I am at peace with them. The last thing we see is Jack lying on the forest floor next to good boy Vincent, ready to close his eyes one last time. A final burst of happiness washes over him, seeing that Frank Lapidus successfully got some people off the island. And now, it's time for Jack to embrace the light within. We are all a part of each other's stories. I am a part of yours as you listen to me now, and you're a part of mine, be it as a number on the screen or a comment for me to read. My actions in making this video have changed what happened to your day, and you being here adjusts the path that I'm on. Some might call that destiny, but I don't think it really needs a label. We may never meet, and we may blindly pass each other on our individual paths, but we are connected. Your belief in what comes after life is not anyone else's to question. But one thing that is evidently true, we are all affected by the presence of others who we share this world with. Your actions may not be perfect at times, as our journeys are complicated, but remember that hope is never lost. You can make things better. Show kindness where you failed to do so before, and forgive where you failed to do so before. When your material existence ends, your spiritual legacy will live on. Your love, your friendship, your kindness, they will leave a positive impact on those you leave behind. So even though you may feel lost on your journey in life, have faith in the idea that you matter and you have a great purpose. Thank you for being here.